You like sir.
I'm sorry. Take your time. Take your time, bro.
Like, it might sit up. Huh? You have to sit up.
What's up? You want some on that?
Yeah, have it.
Go ahead, come. Sure.
Concert.
So we are the I.S.U.P.K under Commander YAHANNA, started 1 West 9, 25th Street, Harlem, New York. You see blacks, Hispanics, Native American Indians, that we are the real Jews. Take your time, bro. We got tonight, it's a piece of dedication to Hachaanaakah in Hebrew. We're going to get right into it and going to go over what is the meaning of it. What's the point of Hachaanaakah, right? What is even in the world, Christian world, all the evil holidays, they try to give it a spirit. They'll say, "What's the spirit of Christmas? The true meaning of this, the true meaning of that." I mean, we want to find out what's the true meaning of Hachaanaakah. Is it just a celebration that we just do like the heathens do theirs, or is there something behind it? All right, give me that scripture I asked for, bro. Romans, please. Give me that scripture.
Come on, sit down.
Shalom, sister.
Shalom.
Get that scripture really quickly, bro. Go ahead.
Concert. Romans chapter 15, verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning.
Read it again.
For whatsoever things were written aforetime.
Whatever was written aforetime, meaning whatever was recorded in the past. Right? Go ahead.
Use that mic.
Come on, sister. Go ahead. Read it again.
For whatsoever things were written aforetime.
Anything that was written aforetime, go ahead.
Were written for our learning.
It was written for what? Our learning. What does it mean written for our learning? It was written for a purpose, so that we could learn something. Why? Because there's nothing new under the sun. Right? Anything that has happened in the past is going to happen again. Right? Any test that you are about to face is nothing new. It's nothing that somebody else didn't face in the past before. It's nothing that somebody right now is not facing. You understand? And the beautiful thing about the scriptures for Israel is this. Your test is an open book test. You understand what I mean? Why? Because it happened before. You can turn right on into it and find out that it is exactly what we're going through has happened before. Let's go straight to the book of Maccabees. Somebody grab the Apocrypha. Grab the Apocrypha. Let's go to Maccabees. First Maccabees chapter 1. Right? We're going to go to First Maccabees chapter 1. We're going to start very importantly in verse 11. So this is a situation where Israel was in a situation where they had to defend themselves, right? But we're going to see how it all starts. All oppression starts somewhere, and this is where oppression started then, and this is where oppression started today for us. First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 11. Go ahead.
Come. First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men.
Read it again.
In those days went there out of Israel wicked men.
In those times went out of Israel wicked men. You understand? These are your black leaders. These are your black leaders. Anytime you hear wicked men going out to represent you, that's the beginning of oppression. Anytime your leaders are weak and wicked, it can only go lead you into captivity and oppression. Right. You understand? I mean, read it again.
In those days went there out of Israel wicked men.
Go ahead.
Who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen.
You have to understand that. They persuaded many Israelites. Saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen. And here's what you have to understand. This is not new. When else did this happen? Go ahead.
Every election.
Every election. You understand? Every election happens, right? And I'm going to give you one more. Actually, we're going to get to it. Read it again.
Hachaanaakah. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us.
So they want to go and make a what? A covenant. Make an agreement with the heathens that are round about us. You understand? They want to go back into to dealing with heathens. And that is always going to be the beginning of oppression. Oppression does not start. For Israel, oppression has never started because some other nation was stronger than us. That was not the beginning of oppression. You understand? It was always some wicked leaders who wanted to sell you out. Who those leaders, they envied the other nations. They want to be like the other nations. And then they say, you know what? Let's go make a covenant with the other nations. That's how oppression always starts. Nobody ever was just stronger or smarter than you. You understand? Keep reading.
Hachaanaakah. For since we departed from them.
Since what?
Since we departed from them.
Now we get into the root of it. Yeah, since we departed from them, meaning we're separate. Till today, what do you hear? If you mention segregation, saying that segregation was good, they're going to disagree with you. You understand? Since we departed from them, go ahead.
We have had much sorrow.
We have had what?
Much sorrow.
When has this happened before? This happened before at the Exodus. When leaving Egypt. You remember what they said? They said, let's go back to Egypt. Because we remember the pots of meat. You know, things were easier then. And that's what happens with any weak leader. Weak leaders want ease. The easiest route, that's what they're going for. You understand? Because they want ease, they're willing to sell you to get that ease. You understand? Read that part again.
Hachaanaakah. For since we departed from them.
Since we departed from the heathen, imagine that. You understand? Go ahead.
We have had much sorrow.
We have had much sorrow. That's the problem with weak leaders. You understand? Those who only want a good life, those who want luxury, those who want to marry the heathen. You understand? Those who want anything and they'll do anything to get it. You understand? Including sell you out, sell us out. Keep reading.
Hachaanaakah. Verse 12. So this device pleased them well.
Go ahead.
Verse 13. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen.
Right. Skip me down to verse 30. I'm going to be skipping us through certain parts because we want to get to the point, right? Skip me down to verse 34.
Hachaanaakah. First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 34. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein.
Read it again.
And they put therein a sinful nation.
They put therein a sinful nation. Go ahead.
Wicked men.
Go ahead.
And fortified themselves therein.
So this is what's happening now, right? So you have Israel, right, who is separate, but they're trying to rejoin. You understand? They're trying to rejoin to the heathen. So what do? They put forth who?
Wicked men.
Wicked men. Go ahead.
And fortified themselves therein.
Who are these wicked men here? Who are the wicked men they're speaking about here? Go ahead.
I think two things. It's the religious leaders.
No. Read it again.
And they put therein a sinful nation.
A what?
A sinful nation.
Oh, sinful nation. So who's the wicked men?
The Edomites.
The heathen. Not the specifically Edomite, the heathen. You understand? They put forth a sinful nation. What does it mean as a sinful nation? A nation that's you should not be mixing with. A nation who has no laws. A nation who would do anything. That's who they put in amongst you. You understand what I mean? Does that sound familiar? We're going to find out. Keep reading.
Hachaanaakah. Wicked men and fortified themselves therein.
And what?
And fortified themselves
They
therein.
need to fortify themselves. They're moving into your neighborhood. This is gentrification. This is what's happening. This is gentrification thousands of years ago. This is nothing new. You understand what I mean? When they want to break you, what do? They move in the Chinese. They move in the Arabs. You understand? They move in the East Indian. They bring all types of people into your neighborhood. I don't care how poor. Like you often hear, this place is a ghetto. This place is poor, right? You think that because it's poor, it just be us there. No. In the poorest neighborhood, you're gonna find a couple things. You're gonna find a Christian church, and you're gonna find a Chinese restaurant. You understand what I mean? You're gonna find liquor stores owned by Moab. You're gonna find places where they're doing nails. You know, doing nails and selling hair. The East Indians are selling hair in the poorest neighborhoods. You understand? That's the wicked nation that was fortified there. Read it again.
Hachaanaakah. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein.
Go ahead.
Verse 35. They stored it also with armor and victuals. And when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there. And so they became a sore snare. Verse 36. For it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary, and an evil adversary to Israel. Verse 37. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it.
From 34 one more time.
Hachaanaakah. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein.
They put to themselves a wicked nation, heathens, right, in your neighborhoods. You understand what I mean? And they fortify themselves in. Go ahead.
Verse 35. They stored it also with armor and victuals. And when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there. And so they became a sore snare.
Hey, what?
And so they became a sore snare.
They became a sore snare. Who? These heathen. Go ahead, read again.
Verse 35. They stored it also with armor and victuals. And when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there.
You understand me? This is how you destroy a nation. So to catch everybody up, leaders, wicked men amongst Israel wanted to return and join the heathen. Right? And this is what they did. They just started moving heathens into your neighborhoods. This is thousands of years ago. This is gentrification thousands of years ago. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is nothing new. This is like there's a scripture that says the devil, we know the devices of the devil. I mean, you know his style. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't change his style and how he approaches it. You understand? He put wicked men in your neighborhoods. Skip me to verse 37.
Hachaanaakah. Verse 37. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary.
And that's what's coming next. That's what comes immediately as soon as the heathen come up amongst the sheep. You bring wolves amongst sheep, and it could only be one result. Read it again.
Hachaanaakah. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it.
The sanctuary is what? Solomon's temple. The temple that Solomon, the son of David, built. You understand? A place that was holy. A place that was special to Israel. You understand? And what did the heathen do? They shed blood on every side of it. Keep reading.
Hachaanaakah. Verse 38. Insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them.
And what?
Insomuch the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them.
That's gentrification. You understand? They come into your neighborhoods, they destroy you. And next thing you know what? Guess what? Black people leaving DC.
Right.
Black people leaving Harlem.
Right.
Black people leaving Baltimore. You understand? Because you cannot survive with them there. You understand? Miraculously, when you was dirt poor, you were surviving. But the minute they move into your neighborhood, guess what? All of a sudden, miraculously, crime gets to a point where it's uncontrollable. Right. You understand? And you have to get up and get out. Right? I'm sorry, I'm skipping around because we have to get to the overall picture as to what is the meaning of Hachaanaakah, or the feast this feast, right? Go to verse 40.
Hachaanaakah. Verse 40. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning.
This is speaking about Jerusalem, man. This is speaking, everybody talking about Mama Africa, the mother. This is our motherland right here. This is Jerusalem. It's speaking as if it's a woman. You understand? The metaphor is it's a woman and it's our mother. Read it again.
Hachaanaakah. As had her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning.
That's sad. You understand? Her honor decreased and her excellency has turned into mourning. You understand? Because she's burying her children. Her children are leaving her. You understand? A mother would definitely understand this if this was to happen to their children. Right? Keep reading.
Hachaanaakah. Verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people.
King Antiochus is a wicked bastard, man. And said some Greek Edomite. He wrote to his what?
He wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people.
All should be what?
One people.
One people. One nation. Under God. Indivisible. Right? Read it again.
Hachaanaakah. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people.
That we all should be one people. One melting pot. You understand? United States. All together. Right? Keep reading.
Hachaanaakah. And everyone should leave his laws.
Everyone should what?
Leave his laws.
Everyone should leave his laws and become one people. Let me tell you something. Black people, back then and today, are the problem when it comes to everybody becoming one people. You understand? You're the reason that we can't be a melting pot. When they say indivisible, united with justice for all, and then we look at reality, we realize there is no justice for all. You understand? You stick out like a sore thumb. You understand? You always have some resilience. Even in the world, the brothers in the world, everybody's name one heathen, Chinese, Arab, whatever you want to call them, who is not pledging allegiance to the flag. And here you are kneeling. Sore thumb. You know what I mean? Here you are kneeling. Or what was that brother, Kyrie Irving, the other day? See, I'm not celebrating Thanksgiving when everybody is united. You understand? Thanksgiving, what did Thanksgiving do? It united everybody. You understand what I mean? I guarantee you, everybody who ate turkey on Thanksgiving didn't eat turkey all year. But on that one day, we are united. You understand? We're all together. Go ahead, Kwasha.
Sir, it's heavy what you're saying, because like whenever foreigners come to the United States and they want to be citizens, in order for them to be a citizen, they have to pass certain tests. But then after that, they have to pledge allegiance to America in order for them to be accepted as a citizen.
Right. And let me tell you something. Them heathens, man, they have no integrity. That's the difference between them and black people. A heathen, you tell them, look, I'm going to give you a Dunkin' Donuts franchise, and they'll do whatever. There's no law that they have in their own personal beliefs that's going to make them say, I can't do that. There's nothing in their personal beliefs that they can say, you know what, that's against my law, I can't do it. Whatever's asked of them to do, they'll do. And say, I'm going to give you an example. Islam, they don't believe in eating pork. But then every ghetto selling pork sandwiches. There's nothing they won't do. Mm-hmm. You understand? The heathen will accept whatever America says because they're willing to become that melting pot. Right. Israel's always giving pushback. You understand? You have all their stars, like they even have to tell LeBron James to shove and bounce the ball.
Right. Because
you're talking too much about things that got nothing to do with you. Because there's resistance there. You understand? Keep reading.
Hachaanaakah.
Call where you're at and read.
First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 42. And everyone should leave his laws.
Go to verse 40 again.
Hachaanaakah. Verse 40. As had her glory, so was her dishonor increased.
Go ahead.
And her excellency was turned into mourning.
Go ahead.
Verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people.
So he wrote to the whole kingdom that all should be one people, meaning that there's no longer Israel. We're all American. You hear that often from black people. I'm American. It don't matter where I'm American. You understand? We're all one people. We all bleed one blood. Right? Keep reading.
Verse 42. And everyone should leave his laws.
Everyone should leave his laws. You understand what I mean? Everyone should leave his laws. Never mind. That's in the past. That's the Old Testament. Leave your laws. Go ahead.
So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king.
Of course, there's something in there for them. They all agree immediately. Right? Go ahead.
Verse 43. Yea, many also of the Israelites consent to his religion.
Read it again.
Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion.
Along with the heathen, a lot of the Israelites consented to that religion. You understand? A lot of Israelites say, you know what, we'll do it. Because they had poor leadership. The same leadership that led them back and say, you know what, let's make a covenant with the heathen. That's the ones pushing them to go and join the heathen. You understand? Keep reading.
And sacrifice unto idols.
And what?
And sacrifice unto idols.
Just like they're about to do on December 25th. You understand? Just like they're about to do on December 25th, just like they did recently for Thanksgiving, sacrifice unto idols. You understand? They're going to go and bring presents to that tree. You understand what I mean? That's what they call sacrificing to idols, right? Keep reading.
And profane the Sabbath.
And what?
And profane the Sabbath.
And profane the Sabbath. You understand what I mean? Keep reading.
Verse 44. For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah that they should follow the strange laws of the land.
Go ahead.
Verse 45. And forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple.
And that's the point of these United States. That's the point of, everything that's happening. Because guess what? They can't exist if you exist. You understand? The United States can't exist if you are here with your own laws. You understand? Everything they push, you are against. Right? Keep reading.
And that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days.
Go ahead.
Verse 46. And pollute the sanctuary and holy people.
What?
And pollute the sanctuary and holy people.
That's what it's about. Polluting the sanctuary and the holy people. Who are the holy people? Israel. God's chosen people. Special people above all other people. You understand? Think about that. A special people above all other people. How could they tame you? They got to destroy you and your culture. You understand? Everything they do is an attack on you. It doesn't affect no heathen. It doesn't affect their way of life. They could be Islam and celebrate Christmas. It's okay. You understand? They could be Buddha and do Thanksgiving. It's okay. You understand? But you are not allowed to do those things. Keep reading.
Verse 47. Set up altars and groves and chapels of idols.
That's a Catholic church right there. If you ever look for the scripture, read it again.
Set up altars and groves and chapels of idols.
They actually call it chapels today. Chapels. And they have idols in there. You understand? They have idols in those chapels. Go ahead.
And sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts.
Right. You understand what I mean? Take me to 2 Maccabees. We're going to go to 2 Maccabees. We're going to go to chapter 6. We're going to read about a brother, who had the right spirit on him when it comes to this attack on Israel. Right? Start me off 2 Maccabees chapter 6. We're going to go to verse 4 to get a little more color as to what's going on.
2 Maccabees chapter 6 verse 4. For the temple was filled with riot.
The temple was filled with what?
With riot.
Hey, go ahead.
And reveling by the Gentiles.
And reveling. What's reveling? Revelry. What's that?
Like when you coming up against a power.
No, it's party. It's party. If you want to see revelry or reveling, look at the Christian church. All that shaking and catching the Holy Spirit, that's what it's talking about right there. Rioting and reveling. You understand? It's a party. Keep reading.
Hachaanaakah. Who dallied with harlots.
Who what?
Who dallied with harlots.
This is what's going on in the temple. In the temple that King Solomon, David's son, built. This is what's going on there with the heathen there now. Now that the heathen done gentrified the place. You understand? There's revelry and rioting in there. Keep reading.
Hachaanaakah. And had to do with women within the circuit of the holy places.
And brought whores into the holy temple. You understand? Keep reading.
Hachaanaakah. And besides that, brought in things that were not lawful.
And brought in things that were unclean. That's the first thing they do. You understand? Brought in things that are unclean. Anytime they run into it, even in our personal lives. You understand what I mean? Anytime they bring it, if your family members invited you to a party or gathering, as they call it, the first thing that's going to be on there is pork. You understand? They can't not have something unclean there. Shrimp is going to be there. Lobster is going to be there. You understand? And you are going to be the problem in the room every time. Even when you're outnumbered, even when you're not saying anything, they're waiting for you to say something. Because you are the problem on earth. You're too resilient. You won't compromise. You have too much integrity. You understand? Keep reading.
Hachaanaakah. Verse 5. The altar was also filled with profane things.
The altar was also filled with profane things. Go ahead.
Hachaanaakah. Which the law forbiddeth.
Right, go ahead.
Verse 6. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient fasts.
Think about that. You understand? Neither is it lawful for what?
For a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient fasts.
Think about that today. You understand? If you want to keep a Sabbath day, you have to ask for permission. It's like pulling a tooth. It's like pulling teeth. You know what I mean? Because it's so hard to even get your day off where you can observe the Sabbath.
Right.
When Passover comes around, you got to start asking now.
Right.
From now, you got to start pleading with them and asking and reminding them, because there's a chance that they're going to say no.
Hey, countless are dead between now.
And you can't power God.
Countless are dead.
You understand? Read it again.
Hachaanaakah. Verse 6. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient fasts.
Go ahead.
Or to profess himself at all to be a Jew.
And to what?
Or to profess himself at all to be a Jew.
You couldn't even say you're a Jew. You understand? Because if you say you're a Jew, what are you doing? You're not united. You're separate. You're causing what? What's the term the Christians use today? You're causing division. You understand? You're causing division. You can't say you're a Jew. You understand? Keep reading.
Hachaanaakah. Verse 7. And in the day of the king's birth, every month they were brought by bitter constraint to eat of the sacrifices. And when the fast of Bacchus was kept, the Jews were compelled to go in procession to Bacchus.
So it's the king's birthday, and he wants what? Everybody to come to this feast and eat this unclean food. You understand? To show that you are united with him. You understand what I mean? Isn't it crazy that to show that you're joining him, you have to do something that's unlawful to you. You have to do something that's against your laws. That's that to show him that you're not with those laws, you are with him. Right? Keep reading.
Hachaanaakah. Carrying ivy. Verse 8. Moreover, there went out a decree to the neighbor cities of the heathen.
Go ahead.
By the suggestion of Ptolemy against the Jews, that they should observe the same fashions and be partakers of their sacrifices.
And of course, let them send to the Jews that you have to do this. You have to do this in order to be part of us. Go ahead.
Slocky, I missed that. But he had a birthday every month on the day of his birth. Like if his birthday was on the 23rd.
No, whatever his birthday is, he wanted to have his feast. Right? Skip me to verse 18 for the sake of time.
Hachaanaakah. 2 Maccabees chapter 6 verse 18. Eleazar, one of the principal scribes, an aged man.
Eliezer, a righteous man. You know what I mean? A righteous man, a servant of the Lord. Go ahead. And he's aged. He's old. He's an older brother. Not a young brother. Go ahead.
Hachaanaakah. And of a well-favored countenance,
Go ahead.
was constrained to open his mouth and to eat swine's flesh.
He would refuse to open his mouth and eat swine's flesh. And so this is a righteous brother. You know what I'm saying? Keep reading.
Hachaanaakah. Verse 19. But he, choosing rather to die gloriously.
He what?
Choosing rather to die gloriously.
This is what Hachaanaakah is about. You know what I mean? This is what it's about. It's about courage. You know what I'm saying? It's about taking a stand. It's about manhood, masculinity. You know what I'm saying? Not being afraid to die. He wants to die how? Read again.
Choosing rather to die gloriously.
Gloriously. Why is he dying gloriously? What's glorious about dying? What's glorious about dying? It's not about glorious about dying, right? But he would rather, go ahead, Shabbat.
He didn't die dishonorably.
Right. You understand? And we're going to get into it more. Go ahead.
Hachaanaakah. Choose it. Verse 19. But he, choosing rather to die gloriously than to live stained with such an abomination.
He'd rather die gloriously than live stained. Meaning what? He's 90 years old. He's been keeping the laws forever. He's not going to stain himself by eating pork to make some heathen king happy. He'll die. He'd rather die.
Right.
You understand what I mean? Keep reading.
Hachaanaakah. Spit it forth and came of his own accord to the torment.
Peep that one. He came of his own accord, meaning what? He showed up for this. He showed up to die. You understand what I mean? He's different. They're not gonna come dragging him, kicking and screaming. He's going with dignity. If this is the case, I'll die. You understand? I'll die. It's pretty simple for him. Right? Keep reading.
Hachaanaakah. Verse 20. As it behoved him, as it behooved them to come.
Read that part slowly.
Verse 20. As it behooved them to come, that are resolute to stand out against such things.
That part's heavy. Read it again.
Hachaanaakah. That are resolute.
Read the verse above it again so we get to understand what it's saying there.
Hachaanaakah. Verse 19. But he, choosing rather to die gloriously.
He would rather die gloriously. Go ahead.
Than to live stained with such an abomination.
Than to live stained with an abomination. Go ahead.
Spit it forth and came of his own accord to the torment.
He came of his own accord. Nobody had to go and drag him. Nobody had to go and arrest him. He came of his own accord to the torment. The torment means what? Torture. Right? Go ahead.
Verse 20. As it behooved them to come that are resolute to stand out against such things.
As it behooved them to come that are what?
That are resolute to stand out against such things.
Somebody break that part down. Somebody break that part down. Go ahead.
The heathens that think it's normal not to do the right thing.
No. Read it again.
Verse 20. As it behooved them to come that are resolute to stand out against such things.
As it behooved them. So what does it behoove mean? Look at behoove somebody. Go ahead.
Suggested to do something.
Not this context. Behoove.
It surprised them.
Look at the word behoove. Come on, quickly. Somebody got it?
Constant.
Go ahead.
Behoove. Past this, but
Go ahead.
I don't.
Who got it? Different question. Look at. Read it again. Read the scripture again.
I don't come. Verse 20. As it behooves them to come, that are resolute to stand out against such things.
There are certain men who, when a challenge like that is put forth, they're gonna have an urge to come and defy it. You understand? As it behooved him to come out and challenge this order. That's what he's basically saying here. Eliezer came out to challenge a specific order. You understand? He's resilient against it. In his mind, this is what he was made for, to defy this. You understand? Go ahead, Mukwashi.
Kind of have the definition.
Go ahead.
Behoove, to be necessary,
Necessary.
proper, or advantageous for.
That's the word necessary. It is. He found it necessary to stand up to this challenge. The king said, everybody had to come and eat the unclean food. It behooved him to go and say, no, I'm not eating it. And I came to die. You understand? That's the type of brother he was. Right? That's what Hachaanaakah is about. Resistance against oppression, no matter what the penalty is. Right? Keep reading.
Hachaanaakah. As are not lawful for love of life to be tasted.
Read again.
As are not lawful for love of life to be tasted.
So basically, he does not love his life more than he loves the Lord of the Lord. You understand? And that's the type of man you're going to have to be. We'll probably say, no man who loves himself more is worthy of the kingdom. Right. No man who loves himself, wife, or children. You understand? Keep reading.
Verse 21. But they that had the charge of that wicked feast, for the old acquaintance they had with the man.
So imagine this. Eliezer shows up to die. You understand? He showed up to die. It behooved him to come up and challenge this order. Now, this is what's going to happen. Some acquaintances is going to come. Some friends of his who love him. Some brothers he's known for years. He's an old man. You probably known him since youth. These brothers are going to show up, right? And their goal is to save him. They don't want him to die. They know him. They know he's hard-headed. They know he's not going to tolerate it. They know he's not going to comply. So they say, man, Eliezer is going to die. How do we save him? So these brothers show up to try to save Eliezer. All right, go ahead.
Taking him aside.
And they took him aside, right? Imagine he is on his way to challenge the order. His friends, his acquaintances come and take him to the side. Go ahead.
Besought him to bring flesh of his own provision.
Read it again.
Besought him to bring flesh of his own provision.
So they came to him and said, look, bring flesh of your own provision. What does that mean? Bring your own food. Bring your own flesh. Right? Keep reading.
Such as was lawful for him to use.
Chicken, beef, lamb, goat. You understand? Bring food that is lawful, right? Bring that food. Go ahead.
And make as if he did eat of the flesh taken from the sacrifice commanded by the king.
And do what?
And make as if he did eat of the flesh taken from the sacrifice commanded by the king.
So these brothers love him. They don't want him to die. Right? They say, you know what you're going to do? Bring your own flesh that looks like it could be pork and eat that and act like it was pork. You understand? These are older men, wise men who came to try to convince him to not go in there and die, but to basically, make it look like he ate the pork, but really he's eating what? Lawful meat. You understand? Yeah, with me? Keep reading.
Verse 22.
Now, was that wrong? Go ahead. Was that? It was not wrong. Was it wrong?
It's not what the king commanded.
Okay.
He's tricking the king or the king's men, but he's still obeying. Well, no, he shouldn't have been going there in the first place, according to the Most High's law.
Is it wrong for him to take meat and act like it's pork? So the king ordered, right, that he eats the pork. He doesn't want to eat the pork. Friends of his show up and say, you know what? Instead of dying, just take meat that looks like pork and eat it and say, look, I ate the pork. Right? Keep reading.
Hachaanaakah. Verse 22, that in so doing, he might be delivered from death.
And if he does this, he doesn't have to die. You understand? You don't have to die. Keep reading.
Hachaanaakah. And for the old friendship with them find favor.
And what?
And for the old friendship with them find favor.
Go ahead, keep reading.
Verse 23, but he began to consider discreetly, and as became his age.
And he started to think. Right? He started to think. After he started to think. Go ahead.
Hachaanaakah. And as became his age.
Thought about his age. Why do you think about his age?
Because he spent all these years following the Most High.
That's right. You understand? All these years, listen, following the Most High's laws. So he thought about his age. Go ahead.
Okay. And the excellency of his ancient years.
And the what?
And the excellency of his ancient years.
Meaning what?
His years in service was honorable, like all
His
the time
reputation.
concert.
His reputation, right? Go ahead.
Okay. And the honor of his gray head.
And the honor of his gray hair. You understand? Gray hair is something to be honored. You understand me? When you raise in the truth, when you raise serving the Lord, those gray hairs were not spent doing wicked things. You talk about the honor of his gray hair. Go ahead.
Okay. Whereon was come, and his most honest education from a child.
And he thought about how ever since he was a child, he's been serving the Lord. All right, go ahead, keep reading.
Okay. Or rather, the holy law made and given by God.
Go ahead.
Therefore, he answered accordingly and willed them straightways to send him to the grave.
And then he what?
And willed them straightways to send him to the grave.
What's happening here? He missed it. He said, therefore, therefore, answered he.
Therefore, he answered accordingly.
He answered accordingly, according to what?
The Most High's law.
According to all he had learned all these years. You understand? According to all he had learned all these years. He's going to lean on his integrity. You understand? Something the Christian church does not have. Something heathens do not have. He's going to lean on his integrity. Go ahead.
Hachaanaakah. And willed them straightways to send him to the grave.
And what?
And willed them straightways to send him to the grave.
He told him, look, send me to the grave before I do what you just asked me to do. I'd rather die. You understand? I would rather die. Keep reading.
Hachaanaakah. Verse 24. For it becometh not our age.
It what?
For it becometh not our age.
It becometh not our age. He's speaking to the brothers who came to him, right? It becometh not our age. Go ahead.
Hachaanaakah. Said he, in any wise to disassemble, whereby many young persons might think that Eleazar, being 80 years old and 10, were now gone to a strange religion.
Feel that. What is he saying to them? What did he say to them? Quash.
He's saying, all the young men. If I do this, all the young men, knowing that I've been in the truth for 90 years, going to say now he left the truth.
Right.
And they're going to do the same thing. Quick fast.
Right. He had to think about the young man. You understand? Imagine he being, how old is he then? It tells you how old he is.
80 old and 10.
How old is that?
90.
90 years.
Gotcha.
First of all, read the first part. This is the first cut he gave him. Read the part again.
Verse 24. For it becometh not our age.
It becometh not our age. He's telling man, we're grown ass men. We grown. We still lying. You understand? We grown. It cometh not our age. You understand? I'm a grown. I'm 90 years old. I've been serving the Lord forever. I'm not about to lie these dudes to make them happy. You understand? While the young men are watching, which is what the Christian church never thinks about. The Christian church never thinks about the young men who are watching. They just take the money. And they just take the fame. They just take whatever it is they take. You understand? Nobody thinks about the Martin Luther King when he kept saying he has a dream. He wasn't thinking about those kids.
Right.
He was thinking about stealing that white woman. That's what he was thinking about.
Right.
You understand? Because if he thought about the kids, he would realize he's destroying their future.
Right.
His brother was thinking about the young brothers who were watching, and he had to set an example. You understand? He had to set an example. Keep reading.
Come.
And actually, somebody get for me the scripture that says, "Do not even get the appearance of evil." Get me that scripture, right? Read it again.
Verse 24. For it becometh not our age, said he, in any wise to dissemble, whereby many young persons might think that Eleazar, being 80 years old and 10, were now gone to a strange religion.
You understand that? He's thinking about the youth. He's saying, you know what kind of damage he can do if I take a piece of beef and act like it's pork to please this heathen. You know what he'll do to the young brothers? They'll think that I left the truth. They might go and eat that. If he did it and he's been serving the Lord, it must be right. You understand? He's not doing that. Keep reading.
Come. Verse 25. And so they thought mine hypocrisy. And so they through mine hypocrisy and desire to live a little time and a moment longer.
That's it right there. Read again.
Come. And so they through mine hypocrisy and desire to live a little time and a moment longer.
I'm not going to be a hypocrite, man. I'm not going to be a hypocrite for what? What was the reward for being a hypocrite? Read. What's the reward for being a hypocrite?
And desire to live a little time and a moment longer.
Just to live a little bit longer. That's the Christian right there. Just to live a little bit longer, they'll let go of all integrity. You understand? The brother's 90 years old.
Right.
So he served the Lord faithfully for all his life. He's 90 years old. And to live a little bit longer, you think he's going to disrespect the Lord? No, he's not going to do it. You understand what I mean? That's the same spirit that's on the snitch also. You understand?
Right.
To get a little less jail time, he'll give up the whole neighborhood. You understand? That's the spirit of the Christian right there. You understand? For a little while longer. What did Satan say? Skin only having skin, and everything a man has. You understand? For a little couple more years. That brother's not gonna live that much longer. He came there to die, first of all. He came to die. You telling him, look, no need to die. Just take lawful meat and act like it's not unlawful meat. Eat it. You live. You understand what I mean? These are his companions giving him this counsel. Keep moving.
Come. Verse 25. And so they through mine hypocrisy and desire to live a little time and a moment longer should be deceived by me, and I get a stain to mine old age and make it abominable.
And get a what? And I get
a stain.
A stain. You understand? What is he saying there? I'm not gonna stain my reputation. I'm not gonna stain my reputation right now. You understand? To plead this heat. I'd rather die. I'd rather die before I stain my reputation. Why? Because his reputation is valuable to him. You understand? He worked on it for years. He's 90 years old. This brother worked on his reputation for years. He's not about to put a stain. And here's the part you have to understand. Who is he putting a stain on? Who does he not want to see him stain himself? Who is he guarding his reputation? Go ahead.
Most High.
Most High. You understand? And you know the funny part is this. You know Christians, every Christian will tell you God is watching all the time. Every Christian believes God is watching all the time as they stain themselves. God is watching me. God is always watching as they eat the pork. God is watching as they celebrate Christmas. God is watching as they speak another brother's life. You understand? But he's going to forgive. He's watching to forgive. That's why he's watching. He's just looking to who can I forgive today? You understand? That's the mind of a Christian. This brother's not going to stain himself in front of the Lord. You understand?
Come. should be deceived by me, and I get a stain to mine old age and make it abominable.
Go ahead.
Verse 26. For though for the present time I should be delivered from the punishment of men.
So if I do this for the present time, meaning right now I might be delivered from in the presence of men. Keep reading.
Yet should I not escape the hand of Almighty.
Yet should I what?
Yet should I not escape the hand of the Almighty.
I'm not going to escape the hand of the Almighty. You understand me? I'm not going to escape the hand of the Lord, even though I escaped this evil's hand. Now, who got that scripture I was asking for? Go ahead, call it.
Mary.
1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 22.
Right, go ahead.
Abstain from all appearance of evil.
Abstain from all appearance of evil. Meaning, I don't think you're doing something that it looks evil, but it's not. Don't do that. You understand? Don't say, well, technically it's not really pork. I'm gonna act like it's pork. You understand? So that this healing doesn't kill me. At this point, let me ask you a question. If you're gonna eat a piece of meat and pretend it's pork to make a heathen happy, who do you fear?
The heathen.
The heathen. You understand? You're willing to gamble your relationship with the Lord to appease a heathen.
Right.
You understand what I mean? That's what you're willing to do. Keep reading.
And the very God of peace sanctify you wholly.
No, that's go to the back to scripture. Go ahead.
Verse 26. For though for the present time I should be delivered from the punishment of men.
And this is what people have to understand. This is what you have to understand. There might be something that comes up where the decision what might save your reputation with man. Right? It might be, this might be, something that makes people like you. People accept you. Make you feel united. You understand what I mean? You might go to that Christmas party to keep your job. You might do it. Because it's going to keep your job a little bit longer. But here's the problem. Read the second part.
Yet should I not escape the hand of the Almighty.
You're not going to escape the hand of the Almighty. You know what I'm saying? There will be a penalty to pay. You know what I'm saying? There is an angel who writes down everything. There is an angel who writes down everything. And at the end, books are opened. You understand? And the book of life is open right next to it to see what you did. Keep reading.
Yet should I not escape the hand of the Almighty, neither alive nor dead.
Now, I would not escape the hand of the Almighty, neither alive or dead. Meaning what? Go ahead.
Whether you're alive or dead, you'll still get your judgment.
Right. Precept. Read it again. I don't want the precept for that.
Verse 26. For though for the present time I should be delivered from the punishment of men.
Even though I'll be delivered from the punishment of man, go ahead.
Yet should I not escape the hand of the Almighty.
Yet I will not escape the hand of the Almighty. Go ahead.
Neither alive nor dead.
Whether I'm alive or dead. Precept. Fear not him who could kill the body, but not the soul. But fear him who could kill both the body and the soul. Fear the Lord. You understand? That's the precept for that. That brother understood that. Right? Keep reading.
Verse 27. Wherefore now, manfully changing this life, I will shew myself such an one as mine age requireth.
Read it again.
Verse 27. Wherefore now, manfully changing his life, I will shew myself such an one as mine age.
You have to slow this part down. Read it again.
Verse 27. Wherefore now,
go ahead.
manfully changing this life.
What's that word?
Manfully.
Spell it.
manfully.
Manfully. You understand what that word is? Manfully. That's masculine. Being a man. You understand? Being a man. man, not a child. Not only children do tricks. Because then when it comes to things like this, they'll do a trick. I'm a grown man. He's basically saying, right? Manfully, go ahead.
Manfully changing this life,
Go ahead.
I will shew myself.
Manfully change this life meaning what? I'm standing against this oppression. This life meaning the life that Israel is living. I'm standing against what Israel is going to. Manfully. You understand what I mean? Go ahead.
I will shew myself.
I'm going to show myself. Go ahead.
Such and one as mine age requireth.
I'm going to show myself as such as one as my age requires. Meaning that I'm not a boy. You understand? And when he's speaking of his age, he's speaking about more than his age. What is he talking about? What is he talking about? Tell me young.
Saying he's a seasoned priest.
He's a seasoned priest. Go ahead. What is he talking about?
His maturity.
His maturity, his reputation. You understand? That's what age is when you're in the truth. How long you've been serving the Lord. He's talking about how long he's been serving the Lord when he's talking about his age. That's what I mean? Keep reading.
Verse 28. And leave a notable example to such as be young to die, willingly and courageously.
Hold on, read again.
And leave a notable example.
And if I die now, I'm going to leave a notable example, right? A notable example for who? Young men after him. A notable example for who? Go ahead.
For the Most High.
You can't say an example for the Most High, right? A notable example for who?
For us.
For us. You're right also. For young men that he was talking about, and so that when we read today, we'll see an example to follow. You understand what I mean? That's why we read about his story and not about the millions of others who failed. The millions of others who ate that pork. The millions of others who, pretended to eat pork and ate something else. You understand what I mean? Keep reading.
Come. And leave a notable example to such as be young to die willingly and courageously for the honorable.
Bring it back. Read it again.
And leave a notable example.
He wants to leave an example. Go ahead.
To such as be young to die willingly and courageously.
That's what Hachaanaakah is about. Young brothers who willing to die, young and old men who are willing to die willingly and courageously when it comes to keeping the law. You understand what I mean? Men who are willing to keep the law unto death. Right? Keep reading.
Come. For the honorable and holy laws. And when he had said
what
these,
verse you at?
verse 28.
Go ahead.
And when he had said these words,
Now watch this part here. Go ahead. When he had said these words, who was he speaking to? The men who was trying to convince him to just take in the pork, right? When he had said these words, go ahead.
immediately he went to the torment.
Immediately he what?
He went to the torment.
He made his way to where he's gonna die at. He's finished speaking, he said, right? All right, shalom. So I headed down that way. Go ahead.
Come. Verse 29. They that led him changing the good, will they bear him a little before into hatred?
Now, read that part again.
They that led him changing the good.
Who's they? Who's the they? Go ahead.
It was his counsel, his
He's
friends.
the same guys who came, who loved him and wanted him to live and told him, go ahead and eat it. They, what happened to them? Go ahead.
They that led him changing the good, will they bear him a little before into hatred?
They that came and was speaking good words to him, they now hated him. Why did they hate him? Keep reading a little bit more.
Because the aforesaid speeches proceeded.
Because of what he said. What about what he said made them? Imagine, they came to save his life. They thought about it and said, you know what? How can we save this brother? This is what we're going to tell him. Because we know he's stubborn, he's hard-headed, and he's not going to change. He's willing to die. We don't want him to die. So we're going to tell him to do this. This way he can keep the law and keep his life. Right? So these people obviously cared for him. But now they hate him because of what he said. Why do they hate him? Tell me up.
Show that there was preachers of man.
You're on it. Go ahead.
He's putting it out there, making them realize that they're false.
Right. I'll make it short. He cut them.
Right.
You understand? He cut them deep. You understand? He told them that I'm a grown man. You understand? After what he said, their masculinity was counted short.
Right.
You understand? Because they had to devise a plan to trick a king into thinking that they ate pork. He said, I'm not doing all that. If I gotta die tonight, I'm gonna die tonight. I'm headed straight to the slaughterhouse. You understand? He cut them deep. And that's what happens with Christians. When you cut them, what happens? All of a sudden they hate you.
Right.
You understand? You expose their wickedness. What they thought was wise was proven to be wicked and cowardly. And he exposed that. And they couldn't stand him for that after that. You understand? For them to tell him that, and for him to look at them and say, man, I'm a grown man. You understand? I'm a grown man. I've been on earth for 90 years. I'm not about to stain my reputation to the Lord to live just a few more years. You understand? Go ahead and cross your.
It's like he's enduring to the end.
He's enduring to the end. And he's saying to himself, this is the end right now.
Right.
He's saying this is the end. I mean, let me tell you. That's why in the beginning he said he was going for what? A glorious death. There's such a thing as a glorious death. You understand? When you die with your honor intact. At the face of, especially when you're offered to squeak out and live like a rat. You know what I mean? And you say, you know what? I'll die. Come on. You want me to do what? It's okay, I'll die. You understand? The Lord will see this. The Lord is watching. This one's for the Lord. And that's what he was doing. You understand? Keep reading. Call it and read it.
Come. Verse 20, 2 Maccabees chapter 6, verse 29. They that led him changing the good, will they bear him a little more into hatred? Because the foresaid speeches proceeded,
Go ahead.
as they thought from a desperate mind. Verse 30. But when he was ready to die with stripes, he groaned and said, it is manifest unto the Lord that hath the holy knowledge, that whereas I might have been delivered from death, I now endure sore pains in body and by being beaten, but in soul am well content to suffer these things, because I fear him.
Because what?
Because I fear him.
Because I fear him. You understand that? He basically just said, I could have lived like all the other cowards.
Right.
But I serve the Lord. And I'd rather die than eat this pork. And I'm not going to fake like I ate. On top of that. You understand? Keep reading.
Come. Verse 31. And thus this man died.
Give him a hand. He didn't find his life more precious than his nation. You understand? He had to think about all the young men who look up to him. I mean, all the young sisters who hear about him. He had to make a decision. You understand? And he chose to die rather than stain himself with that stain. You understand what I mean? Came on that?
Come, sir.
Finish it off.
Verse 31. And thus this man died, leaving his death for an example of a noble courage and a memorial of virtue,
Right.
not only unto young men, but unto all his nation.
Unto what?
All his nation.
Not only unto the young men, but unto all his nation. He left what?
An example of a noble courage and a memorial of virtue.
That's it. You understand? He gave you an example to follow. Like you said, nothing new under the sun. Same thing happens here all the time. You understand? With the Christmas that's coming, you're going to see. You don't celebrate Christmas? It's for the kids. They're going to tell you everything possible in order to make you feel like, you know what, it's not that big of a deal. You understand? It's not for us, it's for the kids we're doing it. The kids don't give a damn about Christmas. They don't know nothing about Christmas. Like Jerome Muhammad said a while ago, those gifts are for the tree.
Right.
You understand? It's for the tree. It's to make the tree more glorious and to make the kids more evil. How is it making the kids more evil? Because the kids are not learning any type of discipline. They're not learning that, no, you can't have this. You'll train these kids at a very young age to become monsters.
Right.
You understand? But there's going to be a point where that kid is not going to be able to get the Christmas gifts he wants. He's not going to get that PS5. You understand? He's going to be 16 years old and he can't get that PS5 and he has a gun. He has to satisfy that lust. You understand? He's gonna kill somebody. Right? And when he kills somebody, to show you that the gifts are not for him, when he kills somebody and he is in jail, guess what? Your tree's gonna be more lit than last year. There's more gifts under there. Creating more monsters. You understand? Take me to 1 Maccabees chapter 2. And that is basically the spirit of Hachaanaakah. You understand? Integrity, selflessness. You understand? And wanting to set an example for your nation. 1 Maccabees chapter 2. We're going to start at verse 9. We're going to read about the brother Matthias. 1 Maccabees chapter 2, verse 9.
First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 9. Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity.
Again, this is speaking about who? When it says her glorious vessels, who's it talking about? Jerusalem. It's speaking to her in the metaphoric term as a mother. You understand? Her glorious vessels, what?
Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity.
Go ahead.
Her infants are slain in the streets.
Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets. Whose infants are slain in the streets? Israel. Tamir Rice, the playing with a goddamn handgun, a toy gun, is slain in the streets. You know what I mean? You have countless Savon Martin slain in the streets. Well, guess what? 1,000 years ago, Jerusalem's children were slain in the streets. Nothing has changed. You understand what I mean? Go ahead.
Come. Her young men with the sword of the enemy.
Her young men have died by the sword of the enemy. You understand? George Floyd. I mean, I don't have to go down the list. You understand? I do not have to go down the list. Keep going.
Come. Verse 10. What nation has not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils?
Go ahead.
Verse 11. All her ornaments are taken away. Or a free woman.
Bring back what nation what?
Verse 10. What nation has not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils?
What nation has not taken part of her spoil? Same thing here. You understand what I mean? Today, what nation has not taken part of our spoil? Every heathen has benefited of your captivity. You understand? Keep reading.
Come. Verse 11. All her ornaments are taken away. Of a free woman, she has become a bond slave.
That is sad. You understand? Of a free woman, she has become a bond slave. Keep reading.
Come. Verse 12. And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory, is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it.
Skip me down to verse 19.
Come. First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 19. Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice. Though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him, and fall away everyone from the religion of their fathers, and give consent to his commandments. Verse 20. Yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers.
So what's God saying there? Read 19 again.
Come. Verse 19. Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice. Though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him.
Even though earlier, all the nations, they obeyed America with all their hearts. Let's just call it, right? There's not a thing that America would ask the Chinese who are here that they won't do. Same thing with the Arabs. Any nation. You understand what I mean? What nation, no matter what their religion is, did not celebrate Thanksgiving the other day? They all were united in eating that turkey. You understand what I mean? Even though they don't even like, most people don't even like turkey. I don't like turkey. I mean, I find it to be a dry meat. I don't like it. Most people don't like it, but on that day, they will eat it. You understand? To be united. Keep reading.
So all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him and fall away, everyone from the religion of their fathers.
Even though all the nations fall away from the religion of their fathers, which is what they're doing, they leave. Any heathen that comes to America leaves the religion of their father. If they were Buddhists back when they were at, they're celebrating Christmas now. If they were Islam, they're celebrating Christmas. No matter what the religion is back home, they're doing exactly what America says to do over here, right? Keep going.
And give consent to his commandments.
Go ahead.
Verse 20. Yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers.
But God said, man, damn that. We're going to walk in the covenant of our fathers. You understand? We're going to keep the laws of our fathers. We're going to keep our beliefs. You understand? I mean, keep reading.
Verse 21. God forbid that we should forsake the law of the ordinances.
Go ahead.
Verse 22. We will not hearken to the king's words.
We will what?
We will not hearken to the king's words.
That takes integrity. You understand? That takes integrity, man. He said, we will not hearken unto the king. Man, we're not going to do it. And they're facing death. You understand? This is not like, being kindly asked to do something. They're saying, do this or die. He said, we're not going to do it. Furthermore, go ahead.
To go from our religion, either on the right hand or the left.
We're not going to go away from our religion either on the right hand or the left. What does that mean? Not even a little bit. Yes, there's no room to budge here. We are going to keep these laws. There's no room to budge on the right hand or the left. Keep reading.
Verse 23. Now when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar, which was at Modin, according to the king's commandment. Verse 24. Which thing, when Mattathias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled. Neither could he forbear to shew his anger according to judgment.
Right.
Wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar.
Right. So somebody came to sacrifice an unclean, and Mattathias put him to death. You understand? For the sake of time, let's drop down to verse 41.
First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 41. At that time, therefore, they decreed, saying, whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath day.
So now Mattathias is saying to his team, his camp, his army. He said, whoever comes to make battle, like, to give you some history, Sabbath, those who don't understand the Sabbath, right? Until this day, same thing happens, right? Same thing happens. Those who don't understand the Sabbath think that, nothing could be done on the Sabbath. Even when it comes to even defending yourself. You can't do it. That's because they don't know what the Sabbath is for. They don't understand the Sabbath. So it was a Sabbath, and they were in danger of being attacked by the heathen. And there were brothers who basically, said, well, it's a Sabbath, we can't fight. You understand? We can't fight, we can't do this, we can't do that. But God said, damn that. Because he understood what the Sabbath was. Right? And this is what he said. Read verse 41.
Verse 41. At that time, therefore, they decreed, saying, whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath day, we will fight against him.
That's it. And whoever comes to make battle with us on Sabbath day, we're fighting. We are fighting. We're not backing down. Keep reading.
Neither will we die all, as our brethren that were murdered in the secret places.
We're not going to die like those other brothers. We're not going to let them come in and slaughter us. That's the spirit of the UPK, man. You understand? We are no cowards. You know, but Malachi is basically telling us, look, we're not Christians.
Right.
Be careful. We're not Christians out here. You understand? Whoever comes to make battle with us, we're going to fight. We will defend ourselves. We'll defend our loved ones. We'll defend our families. You understand? Keep reading.
Verse 42. Then came there unto him a company of Assyrians, who were mighty men of Israel,
Go ahead.
even all such as were voluntarily devoted unto the Lord.
Go ahead.
Verse 43. Also all they that fled for persecution joined themselves unto them.
So when you stand strong, man, you're gonna draw people to you. You understand? Because they're gonna see. So it's like if that's why even in a fight, if one person runs, everybody's gonna scatter. But when they see one person stand strong, they're gonna rally up behind them, and that's what's happening here, right? Keep reading.
And were a stay unto them. Verse 44. So they joined their forces and smote sinful men in their anger.
And what?
And smote sinful men in their anger.
Man, Malachi was basically cleaning the temple, cleaning everywhere. You know what I mean? It was basically they were taking over the land little by little. You know, they were taking ground constantly. Any heathen that was there was being put to death. Any weak Israelites who were trying to, stop the progress were being put to death. You understand what I mean? It was a battle of inches, as they say. You understand? And they were not giving up an inch. I mean, Sabbath service, we fight. Right. You understand? We fight anywhere we meet, we fight. You know? Keep reading.
And wicked men in their wrath, but the rest fled to the heathen for succor.
So now that now the war's going on, you know what the weak do? They flee to the heathen. You understand? This always happens. I'm gonna give you a recent example of when it happened when America pulled out of Afghanistan. They had a plane full of traitors to their people. Imagine the devil is leaving and you leaving with the devil. What kind of person are you? They were hanging on to the plane they want to get because they knew what they was doing. They were setting their people out over there. You understand? So they're gonna go wherever America is, and guess where they're gonna end up? Right in the ghetto over you. Right. You understand? That's gonna be their reward. That's what they're holding on to that plane for. They come to the gas station and and persecute you. Keep moving.
Verse 45. Then Mattathias and his friends went round about and pulled down the altar.
And Mattathias did the righteous thing. He went round about, and they were going everywhere. Wherever you raise your Christmas trees, they're coming down. Wherever you raise your what is it called? The Esau on the cross is coming down. Whatever you was worshiping is coming down. You understand? They were cleansing the temple. Right? Keep reading.
Verse 46. And what children soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised, those they circumcised valiantly.
Go ahead. They will return back to the Lord. You know what I mean? They will return back to the Lord. And what's happening here, the Lord is watching. You understand? Mattathias understood something. He understood at the state they were at, he needs to gain the Lord's favor. You understand? He needs to gain the Lord's favor. He feared the Lord more than he feared those heathens. Right? Keep reading.
Verse 47. They pursued also after the proud men, and the work prospered in their hand.
Right.
Verse 48. So they recovered the law out of the hand of the Gentiles and out of the hand of kings the law out of the hand of the Gentiles and out of the hand of kings.
That's what it's about, man. You understand? Gaining ground and winning. You understand? Even when the odds are against you, winning. Because you fear the Lord. You understand? We read about Eliezer, he won. Even though he died a glorious death. How do you know? We read about him till this day. You understand? You're not reading about, you're not going to pick up the scriptures and read about the Jay-Z's and Beyonce's of that time. Right. Who were they? We don't know. But you will read about these brothers. You understand? Because of their integrity. They didn't sell out the minute things got tough. You understand? Is that on there? Keep reading.
Neither suffered they the sinner to triumph.
Neither suffered they the sinner to triumph. You understand? Malachi basically went to war over bringing Israel back to where it should be. You understand? Give me 1 Maccabees chapter 4. 1 Maccabees chapter 4. Verse 38.
Come. 1 Maccabees chapter 4, verse 38. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate and the altar profane, and the gates burned up, and shrubs growing in the courts as in a forest, or in one of the mountains, yea, and the priest's chambers pulled down.
When they saw all these things, the temple desolate, Israel in a horrible state. When they saw all that, go ahead.
Come. Verse 39. They rent their clothes.
They what?
They rent their clothes.
They rent their clothes, meaning they rip their clothes. You know what I'm saying? Meaning they were in mourning over it. A lot of them, today we're not mourning enough. Christians are not mourning at all. You understand what I mean? How can you be mourning when you're high?
Right.
You know? You high, you don't even care what's happening to your people. You understand? These brothers were mourning when they saw the condition of Israel. They saw the condition of the temple, which was precious to them. They mourned. Understand? Keep reading.
Come. Verse 39. They rent their clothes and made great lamentation.
And what?
And made great lamentation.
They cried, man. Go ahead.
And cast ashes upon their heads.
Go ahead.
Verse 40. And fell down flat to the ground upon their faces.
Go ahead.
And blew an alarm with the trumpets. And cried toward heaven. Verse 41. Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had cleansed the sanctuary.
That's what you gotta do. You know what I mean? Judas was taking the lead here. He basically appointed men to fight and hold ground. You know what I mean? Go ahead, keep reading.
Okay. Verse 42. So he chose priests of blameless conversation. So he chose priests of blameless conversation.
Go ahead.
Such as had pleasure in the Lord. Verse 43. Who cleansed the sanctuary.
So he found priests who what? Who love the Lord. You understand? Their conversation is about the Lord. You often meet brothers who, no matter what the conversation is, it's going to end up in the Lord. You understand? It's going to end up in talking about something about the school. You understand? Talking about camp. Because that's their passion. That's what they're interested in. And so you could be talking about basketball. It's going to end up, before you know it, in the Lord. You understand? Go ahead, keep reading.
Come. Verse 43. Who cleansed the sanctuary and bear out the defiled stones into an unclean place. Verse 44. And when as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offering, which was profane, verse 45, they thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen had defiled it.
So basically, in the temple that Solomon built, right, he had an altar, which was stones, right, and where they would sacrifice animals. Right? This is what Solomon does. All the stones that were there were the ones that were used then. But they couldn't use those stones no more. Why? Because they done sacrificed pigs on there. So they basically had to take that altar down and put it outside. Right? Keep reading.
Come. Wherefore they pulled it down. Verse 46. And laid up the stones in the mountain of the temple in a convenient place.
So they put the stones, they didn't throw it out. They put it somewhere convenient, right? But away from the temple. Keep reading.
Come. Until there should come a prophet to shew what should be done with them.
And what? Until they can get a prophet of the Lord who would tell them what to do with it. You understand what I mean? And that's very important to understand. And it shows you the spirit on these brothers. They're not doing what they want to do. You understand? This is very organized. They're going to
Let somebody else read it.
count.
You know.
For God, you're not taking up the Lord.
Come on, anybody else, all right?
Read again for God.
Come. Verse 47. No, it's like it. Verse 46.
Right.
And laid up the stones in the mountains of the temple in the covenant, it's like a covenant place, until there should, it's
A
like,
convenient place, man.
it's like, until there should come a prophet to shew what should be done with them. Verse 47. Then they took whole stones according to the laws and built a new altar.
So now they have to go and build a new altar. Why? Because they have to take the old altar out. Because it was defiled. Go ahead. I'll watch it. That's it. You understand? They're putting out anything that's unclean. They're not taking any chances. Right? And to show you how righteous these brothers are, they didn't make no decisions. What they did is they put it aside until a prophet of the Lord would come and decide what to do. That's which is very important to understand because in whatever they're doing, Satan can easily come in there and give you some pride and make a bad decision. You know what I'm saying? As we've seen throughout the scriptures. Right? But these brothers were waiting for a prophet of the Lord to tell them what to do. So in the meantime, they took it out. They knew it couldn't be on there because it was defiled. Right? Keep reading.
Come. To the former, verse 48, and made up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple, and hollowed the courts. Verse 49. They made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlestick and the altar of burnt offerings.
Say what? Read verse 4. Read verse 47 again.
Come. Verse 47. Then they took whole stones according to the law and built a new altar according to the former. Verse 48. And made up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple, and hollowed the courts.
They did what?
Hollowed the courts.
Meaning what? They, like our Rogers, they renovate. You understand? It takes some work. They're not just gonna take it and leave it as is. After these heathens are done, defile the place. Right. They have whores in there. They have pigs in there. They have all types of unclean things in there. You know what I mean? And their aim was to defile the place. These heathens, they come into a place, man. Good night. You understand me? They have no laws. You understand? All of a sudden, like there's nothing they won't do.
Right.
You understand? Everything is acceptable to them. And they move into your neighborhoods. Everybody, that's why black people always say, you know, they think that gentrification might be good. It's not. You understand? You know, okay, gentrification, General Thumb said it a while ago. At camp, he said, don't think we didn't notice that since more of these oppressors are moving into the area, more kids are going missing.
Yeah.
You understand? Since they moved in, more kids have been going missing now. You understand? It wasn't like that before. Right? Don't gentrification, you're basically bringing your enemy in amongst you.
Right.
And they have no laws.
Right.
You don't have no laws that they can't kidnap. You understand? Go ahead. It's like you know.
Nah, it's the precept right in that chapter about gentrification. I'm pulling right for you right in a minute. Go ahead, continue.
Go ahead.
It's like you go.
Yeah.
Verse 49. They made also a new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlestick and the altar of burnt.
The what?
They brought the candlestick.
They brought the candlestick. Go ahead.
And the altar of burnt offerings and of incense and the table. Verse 50. And upon the altar they burnt incense And the lamps that were upon the candlestick they lighted,
Right.
and they might give light in the temple. Verse 51. Furthermore, they set the loaves upon the table and spread out the vials and finished all the works which they had begun to make. Verse 52. Now on the 25th day and the 9th month, which is called the 9th Casalu, in the 148th year, and rose up betimes in the morning. Verse 53, and offer sacrifice according to the law.
And what?
And offer sacrifice according to the law.
And offer sacrifice according to the law, not sacrifice according to what Pastor Porkchop teaches.
Right.
You understand what I mean? These preachers nowadays, they don't teach the law. You understand? They teach America. They teach the same thing that King we spoke about teaches. Unity. You understand? And in order for you to be united, you have to leave your law, your God. You have to leave your power. You understand what I mean? And like we were saying earlier, black people are the resistance against that. They said you're the number one problem on the earth when it comes to unity. You've been that problem since the Tower of Babel. You understand? Up till now, because why? You are a special people above all people. So you're not allowed to be united with these people.
Right.
You understand what I mean? Keep reading.
Upon the new altar of burnt offerings, which they had made. Verse 54. Look at what the time and what the day heathen had profaned it, even in that was in the dedicated with the songs. And even in that was it dedicated with songs and psalms and harps and cymbals. Verse 55. Then all the people fell upon their faces.
And what? And all the people fell upon their faces. Go ahead.
Worshiping and praising the God of heaven.
They started worshiping their power. You understand me? Go ahead.
Who had given them good success.
Who had what?
Given them good success.
Who gave them good success? Who gave them good success? Go ahead, Pastor.
The Most High gave him
The
this.
Most High gives good success. You understand? He decides for us. That's what we have to understand. You can't look at numbers. You can't look at power. You understand? You can't look at authority. The whole thing is a test. You understand? That's why we said in the beginning, whatever you're going through today is an open book test. You understand? You could literally go into the Bible and find whatever happened, somebody had the courage to face it. You understand? Somebody had the courage to face their mama and say, I'm not celebrating Christmas.
Right.
I'm not eating that turkey. I'm not, bowing down to that church. I'm not bowing down to those idols. You understand? And men in the past have lost their lives. That brother, Eliezer, he lost his life. Willingly. You understand? Willingly lost his life. It's nothing new. You understand? You got to match that energy. Right, I was.
Oh, sorry, if I may. Verse 54. Verse 54, when it say, even in that was it dedicated with songs, talking about the heathen profaners.
No, this is the redemption of the temple now. This is Israel in there going back to, this is the UPK, basically. You understand what I mean? Going back to who we were. You understand? You take, they tore down that temple and rebuilt it and put things back to the way they were. You understand? You don't have to hear, oh, we do things old-fashioned way. Yeah, you're damn right. You know what I'm saying? We're speaking the way of our forefathers. You understand? We're going to be as old-fashioned as possible. You understand? From our garments to the way we talk. Everything done the way it was done before. Yes, that's restoration. Going back to the way it was before. Right? And that's what these brothers are doing. They're not impressed with the new things in there. They're taking them down and putting it back to the way it was before. Keep reading.
Verse 56. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days. And offered. They kept the dedication of the altar 8 days.
They kept the dedication of the altar 8 days. Why 8 days? Read it again,
Come on. Verse 56. So they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days.
Why 8 days? Because that's what Solomon did. You understand? Stay where you're at, because Pastor, give me 2 Maccabees chapter 2, verse 12.
Come. This 2 Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 12. So Solomon kept those 8 days.
Solomon what?
Kept those 8 days.
Solomon had a party for 8 days. You understand? 8 days. That's what he did. That's the, you know. So now, when they're doing it, they go back to what Solomon did. I said thousands of years ago, they pull up the records. How long did Solomon do it for? 8 days? No sweat. We're doing it for 8 days. Guess how long we're doing it here? 8 days. You understand? That means 8 days, these candles are going to be lit. You understand? And you got to go through, I mean, we still go to slave and, you know, in our life, but we have to know what season we're in. You understand what I mean? We have to know what season we're in. You know, make sure the candles are lit and make sure, you know, we keep it. Now, right now, you read the reputation that the men you have to live up to. That brother, Eliezer, that brother ain't no joke, 90 years old. He said, I'll die gladly. Yes, I'm not compromising. We read about Mattathias, Judas. I mean, we read about all these people. They're not compromising. I mean, and they're doing it the way of the old. Right? That was it on that, right?
Come, sir.
For God, please.
Come. Verse 56. So they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days and offered burnt offerings with gladness.
And what?
And offer burnt offerings with gladness. So gladness.
Go ahead.
And sacrifice the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. Verse 57. They
sacrifice what?
The deliverance and praise.
Go ahead.
They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold.
With what?
With crowns of gold.
You wonder why the U.P.K. does what they doing, you know? Crowns of gold, shields everywhere, battle axes everywhere. This is where it's from. You understand? We deck out temple. We don't deck out temples with whatever the hell they put on the Christmas trees. You know what I mean? We deck it with shields and war hammers and war axes and swords and crowns of gold. Go ahead, sir.
Church our whole time the flowers and bouquets everywhere.
God. I mean, to make God, that's a good point. The church just brings the bouquets and flowers. You know what I mean? Because they're trying to what? They're trying to attract a certain type of people. But we too are trying to attract a certain type of people. The same type of people that Matthias wanted to attract.
Right.
The same type of warriors. You understand? The men who saw Matthias doing the work and go back and join Matthias are the same type of brothers now who see Commander General doing the work and say, what? You know what? We're going to follow him. We're going to join his ranks. You know, so we're going to do as he tells us to do. Because he's not running. He's standing firm. We're going to stand firm with him. You understand? And that's how all of us have found a home here. Right? Keep reading.
Come. And with shields. And the gates.
And what?
And with shields.
Go up a little bit.
Come. What's up on top? Verse 57. They decked also the forefront of the temples with crowns of gold.
They decked the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold.
And with shields.
Crowns of gold. Go ahead. Barack.
I'm sorry, first.
Go ahead.
There's some nigga lines up there. The Jews are black.
Go ahead.
Come. And with shields.
And with what?
With shields.
And with shields. Go ahead.
And the gates.
Shields, right behind you, man.
And the gates and the chambers they renewed.
And the gates and the chambers they renewed. Meaning they fortified. You understand? They were making sure that their gates would not languish. You understand? Because guess what? Whatever they rebuilt, they knew they had to defend. You understand? They had to defend it. Because their enemies were not dead. The enemies were right there, looking for opportunity, looking for weakness. You understand? Keep reading.
Come. And hang doors upon them. Verse 58. Thus were there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away.
There was great gladness amongst the people because what?
For that the reproach of the heathen was put away.
The reproach of the heathen. What's the reproach of the heathen? What's the reproach of the heathen today? So whenever you're ready for that precept.
Yeah, I got to do it.
Go ahead. What's the reproach of the heathen today? You don't know what's the reproach? Man, I must already be in your kingdom. Yeah?
Christmas trees.
No, what's the reproach of the heathen? What's reproach? What does the word reproach mean? Look it up. Shame. The shame of the heathen. The heathen shame us. How do they shame us? By taking away our culture. You understand? By teaching our women ain't no good black men. By teaching us that we prefer to be with a white woman than with our own sister. You understand? Shaming us. Coming into the communities. Treating you hostile. Killing you. You see what happened to that brother, with those three devils? That was the reason they got found guilty. They murdered that brother. Lynchings. You understand what I mean? So these brothers were celebrating because the reproach of the heathen was taken away from them. You know what's the real reproach of the heathen? Some heathen who worships rats is above you. You know the East Indians worship rats. You know they worship rats, right? And they have this festival every year where they can touch, if they can touch the white rat, they're gonna be blessed. Well, they're over you. That's the reproach of the heathen. You know Moab worships penises. You know he has a penis festival every year. Right. And they have penis hats on their heads. And they have penis statues on their shoulders. They are over you. You understand? What Captain was shopping at the other day? That dot on their forehead, that red dot on those heathens' forehead, the period blood. They're over you. You understand? That's a reproach of the heathen. So
God, it's like one of them is okay. The one when you said about the children going missing, you go to First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 38.
please.
Like,
So I get that. First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 38.
like first you want to get you want to get 2nd Ezra 16 and 46 first.
You got that?
Okay. It's 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and 16 and 46. For strangers shall reap their fruits and spoil their goods,
Right.
overthrow their houses, and take their children captives. For in captivity and famine shall they get children.
And the other one,
read it again.
Wakan. 2nd Ezra chapter 16 and 46. For strangers shall
strangers. You want to break it down, sir? For strangers. Strangers mean what? Heathens. The heathens will come amongst you, right? That was prophesied in the book of Deuteronomy. Go ahead.
For strangers shall reap their fruits.
Well, reap your fruits. What's your fruit? The fruit of your hard labor, right? The things you produce, they will reap it. Go ahead.
And spoil their goods.
And spoil their goods means take your goods. Go ahead.
Overthrow their houses.
Overthrow your houses. The black household has been overthrown, if you didn't know. You understand? There's no household on earth like the black household. Being what? The black household is the only household that has no leadership in it. Everybody's a leader. Until the leader has to leave. It's put out. You understand what I mean? They have been overthrown. Right? Go ahead.
And take their children captives.
And what?
And take their children captives.
And every time you turn around, there's a missing child in DC. Every time you turn around, there's a missing black child in DC. You understand what I mean? Keep reading.
Khan. For in captivity and famine shall they get children.
For what?
For in captivity and famine shall they get children.
Right. So I can say, you got another one?
For the gentrification is First Maccabees 3 and 36. Oh, that's gentrification. First Maccabees 3 and 36.
Get that people caution.
Hachaanaakah. First Maccabees chapter 3 and verse 36. And that he should place strangers in all their quarters.
So what?
And that he shall place strangers in all their quarters.
Who is he? The king at that time. You know what I mean? And who is he today? The king at this time. Right? He will do what?
Place strangers in all their quarters.
We spoke about this earlier today. You know what I mean? Where you have all time, no matter how poor the neighborhood, you still gonna find Moab in your neighborhood. I'm pastor. Go on. Yes, I mean, read it again.
Hachaanaakah. First Maccabees chapter 3 and 36. And that he should place strangers in all their quarters and divide their land by lot.
He'll place strangers in all their quarters. You know what I mean? Can you imagine in the black community, right? The Arabs are the ones who make the fried chicken. In the black community. Like you need Arabs to come and make fried chicken for you. You know what I mean? If you want hair, you gotta go to who? The East Indian. If you want your nails done, you gotta go to Moab. You know what I mean? Anything you want, you have to go to a heathen for. Right? That's to show you, if you want fruits, Moab. There's not one thing you can say, if I want something, I can go to a black, well, maybe one thing, a shaper. You get a shaper from a black man, that's it. that's all you can get.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Right?
He's just taking that.
Right. Speaking of that, I remember a sister specifically telling me, she got to take her son to go get a haircut to Miss Lane. I was like, Miss Lane? Like, yeah, this cute little Chinese woman cuts his hair. That's what she said. I said, good night. You won't have that no more. A Chinese woman has to cut your son's hair now. I mean, that was it, sir?
That was the last scripture.
The water. Let's close that. Let me take you to Hebrews chapter 11. We're gonna close this out. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 13. This is the spirit of Hachaanaakah. I mean, we read about the birth of Matthias, Judas, and Eleazar. I mean, this is the spirit of it. So, go ahead, Pastor.
Hebrews chapter 11 verse 13. These all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off.
Read again.
Hachaanaakah. These all died in faith.
He's speaking about righteous people, man. They died in what?
Faith.
They died in faith. Go ahead.
Not having received the promises.
Even though they didn't get the promises that they were promised, they died in faith. Go ahead.
Hachaanaakah. But having seen them afar off.
Go ahead.
And were persuaded of them.
Having seen them afar off. What does that mean? They didn't get the promises, but they see it afar off. What does that mean?
They see the promises to the future generations.
Right. Does that mean?
That
So,
come.
so for example, Kaka has a son, right? He may not get what he was working for, but he's working so his son gets it.
Right.
That's to see it afar off.
Right.
You understand what I mean? That's not being selfish.
Right.
You understand? The Christian church teaches you what?
Right.
You only live once.
Right.
YOLO. You understand? So spoil whatever you have. Who cares what the next generation has? Who cares what your children have? You understand? But these people, they're seeing afar off. They're seeing the promises afar off. Go ahead.
Hachaanaakah. And embrace them.
And what?
And embrace them.
Embrace them. Meaning what? Put them at the forefront of their lives. Right? Go ahead.
And confess that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth.
Go ahead. And what?
And confess that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth.
What does that part mean? What does that part mean? And confess that there were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. What does that mean?
That they were not the right people there.
No, this is speaking about righteous people, right? They confessed they were strangers and pilgrims, meaning what?
That they were not in their kingdom.
They're not in the kingdom. That's what I mean. They're not here to adapt to this kingdom. They're not here to unify. Understand? They're not here to unify. They're here to be separate because they're not here to mix with these people. Right? They're here as a punishment, as a judgment. That's why they're here. They're here to serve their time and return to the Lord. You understand? Keep reading.
Verse 14. For they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country.
They that what?
For they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country.
They seek a country. Meaning what? They're seeking their own kingdom, man. You understand? They're seeking something great. They're not here to compromise and join and push this agenda here. They're seeking something different. They're seeking their own land. Keep reading.
Verse 15. And truly, if they had been mindful of that country from whence they came out, they might have had opportunity to have returned.
If they kept the kingdom in mind, they would have opportunity to return. You understand? Because they would be living in such a way that they belong there. That they would earn it back. You understand? Keep reading.
Verse 16. But now they desire a better country, that is in heavenly.
They now desire what?
A better country.
A better country from where?
That is in heavenly.
A better country from where? The previous. You understand me? They're looking for a kingdom that they're not going to lose. You understand? Keep reading.
Wherefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he hath prepared for thee a city.
Read that part again.
Wherefore God is not ashamed to be called their God.
That part is heavy, bro. You understand? God is not ashamed to be called your God. You understand? Because of the reputation you're building. You understand? Can't no heathen shame you. You understand? Because why? You're not shaming God. Now, if you do bow down to these idols, then God would definitely be shamed. He would say, I do not know him. You understand? But because of the reputation that you're building, and you have to learn to respect that reputation. Because even God himself will be proud to say, you know what? That's my servant right there. He serves me. I said, I am his God. Keep reading.
Verse 17. By faith, Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac. And he that received the promises offered up his only begotten son.
Abraham offered up Isaac. You understand? When he was tried or tested, he offered up Isaac. That's the type of brother that you're trying to align yourself with. Eliezer offered up his life. Mattathias went to war. He was willing to die. Judas willing to die. You understand? Abraham offered up Isaac. And you can't even stop smoking. You try to compare yourself, right, to a brother who's willing to give him his first and only son. Meanwhile, you're struggling to give up siblings. And this is, how do you sit at the table with Abraham? You have to really imagine it, right? Abraham said, you know what, I was willing to give up my own son for the truth. Eliezer said, you know what, I went and died for the truth. Judas said, you know what, he went to war for the truth. He said, well, you know, I came this close to quitting tobacco. I have to go back. You can't say that to me. You can't say that to me, man. Keep reading.
Verse 18. Of whom it was said that in Isaac shall thy seed be called. Verse 19. According to that God was able to raise him up, even from the dead, from whence also he received him in a figure. Verse 20. By faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning things to come.
By what? By faith. You know, that's what it's all about. It's about faith. You know, it's about knowing that, you know what? This is the norm. This is what God asked for. This is what I'm doing. Integrity, faith, honor, manhood. That's what Hachaanaakah is about. You understand? It's not about trying to find a way to save your life. Trying to find a way to prolong your life for a couple of years. That's not what it's about, man. You understand? Those who were trying, and Christ said it himself, those who were trying to extend their lives will lose it.
Right.
You You understand? Those who win to lose their lives will keep it for my name's sake. Christ said that. You understand? Keep reading.
Hachaanaakah.
Call it read.
Verse 20. By faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning things to come. Verse 21. By faith, Jacob, when he was a dying, by faith, Jacob, when he was a dying, blessed both the sons of Joseph.
You understand that? All of that is being done what? By faith. All of the people you read of in the Bible, all the great men, they had one thing in common: faith. That's what they stood out. That's what made them stand out.
Right.
You understand what I mean? That's what made them stand out versus other people not even being mentioned about it.
Right.
And say, if you want the name to be written in the book of life, you're gonna have to have some faith. You're gonna have to have a lot of faith. You understand? It's gonna have to be tested and tried. Because in the world, guess what? People find out all the time that what they believe is not what they believe. What do I mean by that? They find out that under pressure they will crack.
Right.
You understand? Under pressure, they'll find out that, yeah, I do eat pork. Oh, yeah, I do celebrate Christmas. Oh, yeah, I do celebrate birthdays. If I want to see my kid again, I'll celebrate the birthday. You understand? If I want to see my son this weekend, I'll probably give a Christmas gift. You understand? And they'll find ways to justify it when we are not allowed to do that. You understand? We gotta have faith that the Lord will either make us see our kids or give us more kids.
That's right.
You understand? But we can't break or disrespect the Lord or forget His law for the sake of men.
Right.
You understand? With that, we'll pass the class over to Priest Officer Al Washington.
That's right.
I.S.U.P.K. security announcements. We are the I.S.U.P.K. out of 1 West, 125th Street, out of Harlem, New York, under Commandant General YAHANNA. New rules for brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves in the world. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to marry, to speak to a brother or sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother or sister will court each other. After this 6-month period, the brother or sister will get permission from the head to marry. TITHES, which is a commandment. You can find this in the book of Numbers 18 and 21 and Malachi 3:8 through 10. Means 10th in Hebrew and it's pronounced ma'ashra. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, you give to the treasury department or teacher. Priest fund, free will offering for priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give. The next upcoming holy convocation is Purim, which is the 14th day and the 15th, the 14th day and the 15th day of the 12th month. Monday, February 14th and February 15th, 2022. You can find this in the book of Esther, 9:20 through 31. Remind Akim and Aquathium to check on social media such as ISUPK.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on for ISUPK events and materials. If a brother wants to become a trooper in the school, you should start wearing all black, which includes black boots, black shirts, black pants, black headbands, or scarf. And with that, say a miser, which means to stand. We'll say the Lord's Sar, which means to turn. We'll say the Lord's Prayer in Hebrew. Abanaw. Shabbat Shemayim. Qudash. Hayah. Shamka. Yahweh. Malakutah. Taba'ah. Watazayaka. Ayah. Aisha. Ra'ratazah. Kawah. Hayah. Mashamayim. Nathananau. Lakam. Cow. You won't. Wasalakinaw. Kabawakinau. Wasalakinaw. Wala'ah. Tabayayanaw. Banasaya one. Abo. Hawashayanaw. Mayan. Ra. Kaya. Laka. Amalakwa. Waha'ala. Wahatapara. La'ai will love you. Aman.
I know about the whole thing.
Come.
I know about the whole thing. Let's take off the one page you need. Oh, Warrior, you can use the Sabbath to the spread. Start with passing to back and forth.
Come. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done. In earth. As it is in heaven. Give us this day. Our daily bread. Forgive us our debts. As we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation. But deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom. And the power. And the glory. Forever. So be it.
Say the blessings. Barakatah Yahweh. Wa Yahweh Shah. Wa Mayaka Allah. Wa Allah Yamim. Mataza Baya. Allah Wap Yahanna. Ha Allah Wap. Ha Surrender. Akwata Sayanyum. Waha Kawak. Waha Akwati. Yahweh Bahashim. Yahweh Shah. The water Aman.
Bless you, Yahweh. And Yahweh Shah. Michael. And the angels. Commander Yahanna. The captains. The officers. The troopers. And the sisters. Yahweh. In the name of Yahweh Shah.
Thank you. So be it. We'll say, bless Israel. Yahweh Bahashim. Yahweh Shah. Barak Lanawa. Wayasha Allah. Wahabaya. Sapariya. Barak. Rapah. Magun. Bahashim Yahweh Shah. Wada Aman.
Yahweh. And then Yahweh Shah.
In the name of Yahweh Shah.
Bless us. And Israel. And the school. Bless. Heal. Shield. Protect. Our loved ones.
In the name of Yahweh Shah. Thank you. So be it. You're going to say Hakak, the power. Yahweh. Bahashim. Yahweh Shah. Baba Kasha. Nathunanawa. Hakak. Larapa'ah. Kau Makala. Wakau Manawa. Hakak. Latahar. Hamatazarayim. Hakak. Lahakwi. Amathia. Hakak. Arakawa. Hatama Allah. Lagarashan. Bahashim. Yahweh Shah. The water Aman.
Yahweh. In the name of Yahweh Shah. Please. Give us the power. The power to heal. All manners of sickness. All manners of disease. The power to cleanse the leper. The power to raise the dead. The power against unclean spirits. Cast them out. In the name of Yahweh Shah. Thank you. So be it. Blessed are you, Yahweh. King of heaven and earth. All things living. Yahweh. In the name of Yahweh Shah. Listen to us now. Right now. Send evils and curses. And punishment and destruction. To the heathen. That speak against us. Thy prophets. The teachers. The princes. Priests. The Israelite brothers. And the school. Send evils and curses. And punishment and destruction. To the heathen. And shake loose. The treasures of the rich of Israel. They refuse to get to the school. Force their riches. To enter into thy sanctuary. Send evils and curses. And punishment and destruction. To the Edomites. The nations. And their drug dealers. Court system. The prison system. Planned Parenthood. All the governments of our enemies. Amalek, synagogues and armies. Roman Catholic Church. The Pope. Islam. Christianity. Egyptology.
Egyptology,
militia,
militia,
Ku Klux Klan,
Ku Klux Klan,
Aryan Nation,
Aryan Nation,
skinheads, Posse Comitazi,
Posse Comitazi,
gay movement,
the gay movement,
the lesbian movement,
the lesbian movement,
spies, workers of witchcraft, NASA space program,
NASA space program,
Army,
Navy,
Air Force,
Marines,
Wall Street. Open up the internet, and the airwaves, cable access channel, and the radio channel, convict the spirit, of any of thy people, that seek to stop us, and bring swift destruction, to all the heathens, that stand in the way, or try to stop us, from broadcasting your word, from planet Earth. Let loose all the plagues, cause them to go to and fro, through the earth, and consume them. Let the plague shake the house of the thief, and the murderer, Let Yahawashi, Michael and Gabriel, come down with the flying saucers, punish all the heathens, that come up against us, as we speak thy word, cause it to be known by all, that it is the angels that have done it, cause it to be spread throughout the media, throughout the whole world, cause them to shake at thy coming, in the name of Yahawashi. Thank you always.
So be it.
Saw, which means to turn, sisters, you can be seated. Give one courtesy salute to the teacher. Men of Israel, I.S.U.P.K, Barak, Yahweh, Saw, which means to turn, sisters, you just stand up. Give one courtesy salute to the sisters. Men of Israel, I.S.U.P.K, Barak, Yahweh, class dismissed.